Lesson 38 is about adding and subtracting decimal numbers and whole numbers, and squares and square roots. Now the first part of the lesson deals with problems like this. We're going to add, and we have 12 plus 7.5. Now we know when we add decimals we want to line them up according to their place value, and we're going to do that vertically. So let's rewrite. We're going to get 12 plus, well, the 2 is in the ones place and the 7 is in the ones place. So we're going to stack them on top of each other. And then we have 7.5. Now we want to make sure there's a value in each of our place value positions. So we're going to add a decimal point after the 12 and a 0 in the tens place. Now we can go ahead and add. So we've got 0 plus 5. That's 5. Decimal point comes straight down. 2 plus 7 is 9. And then we've got a 1 in our 10 spot. So we've got our answer. We've got 19.5. We can go ahead and box that and move on to the next example. Alright, let's subtract. We have 12.75 minus 5. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to stack these vertically. So 12.75, or 12 75/100ths, minus 5. And notice, the 5 is in the 1 spot, the 2 is in the 1 spot, so they're stacked vertically on top of each other. Now we want a value in each one of our place value positions, so we're going to add 5.00, because that's the same as 5. Now we can go ahead and subtract. Well, we can see we have 75/100ths, so that stays the same, because we're subtracting 0 from it. Decimal point comes straight down. Let's borrow from the 1 to get 12, and we have 12 minus 5. Well, 12 minus 5, that's 7. So we've got our difference. Our difference is 7.75, or 7 75/100ths. Let's move on to our next example. What is 12 squared? Now when we're asking this question, what is 12 squared? Another way we could write this is 12 to the second power. Okay, and this 2 is written up high. It's called a superscript. And what this means is we're going to say, what is 12 times 12? So 12 times 12, 12 squared, is going to be whatever the product of these two factors would be. 12 times 12. I know you know what that is. What is it? Well, hopefully you said 144, because 12 times 12 gives us a product of 144, and we're all done. So the answer to 12 squared is 144. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify. We have 3 squared plus 4 squared. Well, 3 squared, that must be 3 times 3. And 4 squared, that must be 4 times 4. So if we add those two things together, we can figure out what our answer is. Let's find out what 3 squared is. 3 times 3. That's 9. 4 times 4. That's 16. So we're going to get 9 plus 16. And 9 plus 16 must be equal to 25. The key thing to remember as we go through these problems when we're squaring them is we're taking the number and we're multiplying it by itself. So 3 squared is 3 times 3, and 4 squared is 4 times 4. Let's look at our next problem. What is the area of a square with sides 5 meters long? Let's go ahead and draw out a square. We've got our square tool here. We know each side is 5 meters long, so m means meters. We can use the abbreviation whenever possible. And we know that area of a square is just equal to the length times the width. So area of a square, well, area of a square, A, is equal to length, L, times the width, W. So the length is our horizontal distance, and our width is our vertical distance. So in this problem, our length times our width, 5 times 5, well, that's the same as saying 5 squared. And we know 5 squared, same as 5 times 5, that must be 25. This problem is asking us for the area of a square, so we must have square units. So this problem is going to be 25 square meters. let's go ahead and write that out on the bottom. 25 square meters. And you can write SQ for square if you like, rather than writing out SQUARE. And we've got our answer. We use that information, 5 squared, to know that we get 25. Let's move on to our next problem. Okay, now this is a different symbol. What we have here is the square root of 64. We can write that out. Now the square root of 64, what that means, this is a root, square root of 64, what that means is what number times itself equals 64? Well, can you tell me what number times itself is equal to 64? Hopefully you said 8, because 8 times 8 is equal to 64. Or we could say 8 squared equals 64. Now the way that we're going to write our answer for this is like this. We've got the square root of 64. That's going to be equal to 8. We've got our final answer. Now lots of people see a problem like this and it sort of looks like a division bar, but it's not. This is a square root symbol. So if you were to write your answer up here, well, that's not correct because we're not working with division. So we write our answer off to the side. Let's undo the 8 on top. So the square root of 64 is 8 because 8 squared is 64. If we look at one more problem, let's say we had the square root of 16. That means what number times itself is equal to 16? Well, it must be 4 because 4 times 4 is equal to 16. And we'd have our answer. That's what we're going to do whenever we work with a problem involving a square root. Our lesson practice will be on page 200. Make sure you've got your notes completed, and I'll see you during our next class.